Well, you might want to tuck yourselves in the blankets real quick because tonight is the night. We are talking about them tall whites, the Nordics and the tall whites, two different species, but we're talking about them tall white aliens, them hybrids, them alien baddies, them alien bimbos. You're gonna get some tonight, and it has also been said that the tall whites are the aliens that we actually work for. You don't have to like the video, you do not have to subscribe. Let's get to it. And I want to start this video off with the appetizer, but we're gonna be quickly getting into this one. Shout out to the Y-Files. I want to show you guys a very short clip from him too, and also most importantly this clip. Yeah, you're gonna get some, needless to say, but roll it.
The other species that I learned about not too long ago was called the tall whites.
Oh.
And this is when Paula Harris broke the story just a few years ago. And through her good offices, I had the chance to talk for about 3 hours with former Airman Charles Hall and listen to this absolutely fascinating story.
Walk in with the tall whites, what are we talking about? For context, this is Paul Haler. He's no longer with us. He was the Canadian Defense Minister, and this was said during a Congress, so he did have credentials. All right, this is why I'm putting this one first, so then we get down to the actual conspiracy and of
how he was working with. First of all, he was scared out of his skin, but after that, when he got to know them, how he was working with, and finally they became to trust each other and have a good working relationship with the tall whites at the gunnery range at Indian Springs in Nevada.
Oh, dang.
And these tall whites were living on United States Air Force property.
Bruh.
And working in cooperation with the United States Air Force and sharing technology with them.
Yeah, and that's the clip right there. Now check this one out.
So the grays, the tall whites, the reptilians, but then there's the mantis.
The mantis.
Too, right?
Right.
These four are the alien species that was talked about in a Congress meeting in the US, and they said that, yeah, these four species are here. They are walking among us. Lock yourselves in the basement. The Martians are here, or I should say the mantis are here. So these are the four different alien species, but some whistleblowers have said that there are 57. I mean, that was said back in the 1989, but recently we heard the number being up to like 78. Yeah.
Other than the beings that we described, are there other ones that people have talked about?
Yes, I've actually, like I said, as a young adult, I probably encountered more of a spiritual sense, but they were Nordic looking, you know, platinum hair kind of a look, blue eyes.
Like the tall whites are different?
No, different.
How many documented different species have you heard of?
If I'm talking about my mission days, it's only that handful. And then if you're talking...
So we got the Nordics, Nerdix as well. I read that.
About other things that I've had other people tell me about, I think I've heard enough from enough people that I trust that I think our concept of life in this universe is totally off. I think there are literally trillions of other life forms, and anything you can imagine is probably true.
So the gray...
Trillions, I mean, that's a crazy number to throw now. Certainly, I don't believe trillions, but okay, like if we're talking like in the grand scheme of things, like the bacterial life, if we're taking that into account, well, that's life still, right? So yeah, okay, but check this out. Shout out to the Y-Files, one of the best YouTube channel in terms of conspiracies. Let's be objective about it, not an opinion, fellas. Definitely send some love to the Y-Files, and also let's get to it. Roll it.
The hair on the back of the cook's neck stood up. It felt like he was being watched. He turned around. Nothing. It was Nellis Air Force Base in the middle of the night. The mess hall was empty. All the men were asleep in the barracks.
Yeah.
The only people awake were him and a couple of guards at the front gate. The only reason he was up was to grab a little extra chow. One of the perks of being a cook, you get the keys to the kitchen.
Yeah. You know, nothing like that 3 a.m. kitchen rush.
Then he heard rustling. He turned and something flashed in the corner of his eye. Something small and white, and it moved fast. A door quietly squealed open. Then he heard steps running into the desert. He caught glimpses of something white darting through the brush. He thought it was too big to be a rat, but maybe a coyote? He wasn't sure.
A rat.
Whatever it was, he didn't want it rooting around his kitchen. He picked up a rock and threw it toward the noise.
So to him, it was like a tall white running around in the desert, and he thought it was just a rat. Come on, man, make it make sense. Don't let them tall white aliens find out that he thought that he was just a rat.
Then he heard a whimper. As he reached his arm back for another throw, he felt a hot pain shoot through his body. He dropped the rock. He was paralyzed by pain and by fear. Then he heard a woman's voice from inside his own mind. She said, "Stop or die." The pain dissipated. As soon as he could move, he bolted back inside the kitchen. He locked the door behind him, terrified. He had no idea where the voice came from, but he knew one thing for sure. It wasn't human.
Damn, so them alien baddies not so good after all? What we talking about? Say psych. Okay, I want to also show you this in just a second, but real quick though, shout out to Cody. I gotta shout out his dog Judson as well. This one for you, man. Thank you for the 5. Shout out to the homie Alan, and shout out to your son Michael as well. Love you both, man. You both legends, man. Both of you legends. Appreciate it. Also shout out to the homie Shaba Noti for the 20. Thank you guys so much for all the love on the channel, for supporting the channel the way you do by liking, subscribing, tipping, super thanks and all that. You gotta do none of it, man. But those of you that do it, thank you so much. Appreciate it. Alright, let's get back to the content here, Boo Boo, and shout out to your waifu, Sheba Noti as well. Alright, let's get to it. Tonight's the night. Tonight's the night.
Did you meet the extraterrestrials or merely see them?
Oh, I met them many times, as I described in my books. Although I never went looking for them, they were always happy to come looking for me.
Oh, they came looking for him. Yeah,
it was March 1965 when Charles Hall arrived at Nellis Air Force Base in the Nevada desert. He was fresh out of basic and excited to see his new post. When the Air Force tested Charles, he showed an aptitude for math and science. After graduating top of his class, he thought he could choose his own post, but he was specifically sent to Nellis.
Area 51!
Well, Area 51 is officially a detachment of Edwards Air Force Base, but yes, it's in the same area.
Yeah.
Charles was trained as a weather observer. His job was to travel around the base taking readings. Most men...
From weather observer to finding out about them alien baddies. What a story, guys. What a story.
Would be bored to tears with this assignment, but Charles didn't mind. He'd get his own truck, extra pay, no officers breathing down his neck, and he liked the quiet of the desert. If he needed to blow off some steam, Las Vegas was close by.
Yeah.
Plus, Charles had a friend on base. His buddy Dwight recommended him for the job. Charles was grateful for the opportunity. That night after he settled in, Charles and Dwight got to talking. They chatted about the base, how bad the food was, which officers were good guys, which ones to avoid. Typical soldier talk. Then suddenly, Dwight got very serious.
Look, Charlie,
talking about the tall
summer's
ones, huh?
coming. You have to keep your eye out for Range 4 Harry. Old Harry likes it hot. He hides in the mountains during the winter. But once it warms up, he comes down to Indian Springs. He likes to run around on the dry lake bed up on Range 4. When you're up there, be careful.
Why?
Range 4 Harry? Charles had no idea what Dwight was talking about. He asked if this was some hermit who hid in the mountains.
Yeah, no, would be crazy enough to run around a nuclear bombing range.
Well, that's what Charles thought. Dwight frowned and shook his head. Then he told Charlie the story of Range 4 Harry.
So Harry...
Back in '54, there was an atomic bomb test over at Frenchman Flats. Harry is a horse who came too close to the blast. Not close enough to be vaporized, but close enough that something happened to him. Now, he gives off a white glow. If you see him, do not approach Range 4 Harry, and don't look at his face. He's not like a normal horse. Officers say he's more human-like, with large blue eyes and a long white tail.
So the tall white, right? Yeah. Now the tall whites are interesting, right? There are Nordics, there are tall whites, and the tall whites are apparently very tall. I guess that's why they're called the tall whites, and they're kind of white as well. Really white. The Nordics, they look quite like us. I guess you can really mistake them for humans, but they're not humans. They're the Nordics. The tall whites, however, they're apparently, according to what we hear, I never came across one, okay? So how would I know? But that's what they say. They are very white, very tall, so they actually are very they stick out like a sore thumb. They stick out like a sore thumb. So if you were to see them, you're like, aha, that's a tall white right there. And that is if you know, that is if you are aware. But if you're not, well, I don't know how a person would react if they were to come across them, but...
Charles stared at Dwight for a long moment, then exploded into laughter. He expected some kind of hazing at his new post, and he figured Range 4 Harry was supposed to spook the new guy, but he wasn't falling for it.
Yeah.
I'm serious, Charlie. While
brave.
you're at Range 4, don't take any risks. The last guy who got too close to Harry was John Zimmerman. I don't want you to end up like him.
Charles laughed and promised to be careful. Still, he wasn't buying any of this nonsense. The next day, Charles was in the infirmary's waiting room. He needed a routine physical before going out into the field. The nurse on duty caught him chuckling to himself. She asked what was so funny. Charles recounted Dwayne's Range 4 Harry story and the fate of John Zimmerman. The nurse's face dropped. She said, "I'll be right back." Charles heard her opening and closing a metal cabinet. When she returned, she said, "I'm not supposed to show you this, but since you're going to Range 4, you need to know what's out there." It was Zimmerman's medical folder. Inside were 4 pictures. Each of them showed a man covered in horrible radiation burns. Zimmerman said a white horse came out of the North Range and charged him, but that was all he could remember. He somehow dragged himself back to Indian Springs, where an officer found him barely alive and in absolute agony. Charles's stomach sank. It wasn't a joke. Range 4 Harry was real.
Oh shit. So a tall white apparently come in on a white horse? Damn, so these boys got horses as well? And prior to that, he was talking about like an alien baddie, right? That was communicating, I guess, telepathically. And told him to don't do anything or he gonna lose his life.
Charles finally met Sullivan, the man he'd be replacing. Sully was friendly, funny, and likable. The two men hit it off right away. Sully took Charles on a tour of a few weather shacks out in the ranges. One of the shacks was locked, so they couldn't access the equipment to take their readings. Sully told Charles to just write down any numbers.
Yeah, government precision.
Well, Charles reminded Sully that they only checked out 3 weather shacks. There were still 4 more, range 1, 2, 3, and 4. Sully's demeanor changed immediately. He said he'd take Charles to the other weather stations, all except range 4.
Ooh.
When they got to range 1, Sully wouldn't leave the truck. He was terrified. He told Charles if he wanted to check out the weather shack, he'd have to go on his own. Sully said he'd keep a lookout, and if he saw anything, he'd go back to base for help. He told Charles, "If you hear me leave, lock yourself in the shack and wait. I'll come back for you."
Famous last words, right? Lock yourselves in the basement. The Martians are here. Or in this situation, the tall whites are here.
Yeah, I don't like this plan.
Well, Charles asked if Sully was talking about range 4 Harry, and Sullivan snapped at him and said there's no such thing. But Sully would not get out of the Jeep. He wouldn't even take his hands off the wheel. He was squeezing the steering wheel so tightly that his knuckles were white. This was not the same man Charles met just a few hours earlier. When Charles got to the weather shack, he checked the equipment and logbook. Nobody had been there for months. Sully had been secretly going off base and faking the numbers. He never stepped foot in those weather shacks.
Nobody noticed the guy kept disappearing?
What?
Right. Government precision.
They knew. They did, but it's just that they couldn't talk about it, right? Could not document it. And they kept on sending a new guy out, right? By the looks of it. But looks like if the story is true, this guy that went there, he survived to tell us the tale.
When Charles returned to the Jeep, he confirmed that Sully had been lying about the numbers. Sullivan didn't care. He said he'd give Charles a tour and never wanted to go to the ranges again. Pretty soon, Charles would understand why.
One last one, huh?
Over the next few months, Charles spent more time on the ranges at Indian Springs than anyone else. Against advice, he was usually out there alone, but he enjoyed it. It was peaceful, and he never saw range 4 Harry. One day, Charles was out on the range, and it was especially hot. In the desert, the ground could reach 120 or 130 degrees, and today it felt even hotter than that. Charles spent most of the day in the weather shack. He didn't have air conditioning, but he had an old fan, and that was good enough. Besides, the sun was setting, and soon it would go from blistering hot to freezing cold. That was life in the desert. Feet up on the desk, Charles daydreamed as he gazed into the desert, watching the sky go from deep blue to orange to red. There was no sound except the songs of meadowlarks. Charles wondered to himself if meadowlarks were common in the desert. He didn't think so, but whatever birds they were, he enjoyed the sound. Then he saw something dart between the sagebrush. Charles blinked. There it was again. He assumed it was a large rabbit or a coyote, but it was covered in brilliant white fur. The more he focused, the more he realized it was moving erratically through the maze of sagebrush like it was in distress.
What?
Charles jumped out of
In the sky?
his chair and threw open the door of the shack. Then he saw it. It wasn't a rabbit or a coyote. It was a child.
Ooh. So Tall White's child.
Describe them. I know we have an animated picture of...
Oh, that's right. Oh, shit. Okay, no, I now remember. Oh, dang. Okay, I'm not gonna, we'll get to it. I don't want to, like, spoil it.
what they look like on the website. Describe them. I know we have an animated picture of what they look like on the website. Kind of describe the Tall Whites for us.
Well, the one that Paula has on her website is a very good rendition of a particular tall white lady. Each one of them are individuals, like the people say in New York City, but they were generally, throughout much of their adult life, they were about the same height as me, 5'11", 6 feet.
Mm-hmm.
They
so
were very
tall.
thin and frail. They had skin as white as a piece of paper.
So not that tall. I mean, 6 feet, that's, yeah, I mean, but I thought they would be like 8-9 feet or some shit like that. What? Or perhaps that was like a smaller tall white.
What I do know about them is that they come from a planet that's somewhat hotter than the Earth and somewhat larger than the Earth, and they naturally live underground.
Underground, huh? Yeah, we covered the Greada treaty topic as well, which I'll link you at the end, I guess, if you have missed it. But it was about them gray aliens, and the topic was also about the underground. So yeah, interesting. Tall whites and the grays and the underground basis.
The girl was barely 3 feet tall, and her skin was chalk white. She wore a silver jumpsuit and boots, and her hair was brilliant white blonde.
So
behind her bright blue eyes, she looked as terrified as Charles. She was tangled in the brush. He called out to her. He said there's no reason to be afraid. He wasn't going to hurt her. He cleared the sagebrush around her so she could easily get out, but he made himself clear that he wouldn't touch her. On a nearby fence post, he left a canteen of water. He said if she was lost, he would help her. All she had to do was ask. Charles turned back toward the shack. That's when he heard something crashing through the brush. It was big, and it was moving fast, and it was getting closer.
Yeah, that was apparently the mama. Mom, get the camera right now. Yeah, that was the mama.
Charles
alien
turned
coming in.
and saw something, a man, a very tall man.
Oh, my bad, that was the daddy. Okay, my bad. Mom, no worries. Bring the camera right now.
He had the same features as the little girl, pale skin, white hair, silver suit, and he was charging right at Charles. The sounds of the meadowlarks now became screeches. The peaceful desert had become chaos. Charles jumped back in the weather shack and barricaded the door. Did he just see Range 4 Harry? Charles wasn't sure, but he was sure that these people weren't human.
Dang, yeah, I wonder, huh?
Charles waited.
Yeah, I wonder, like, what was his thought process? Like, we're in the middle of nowhere here, and nobody should be here, and then, guess what? There's a child. Super tall, or not super tall, but okay, super wide. And then, like, there's a man that's running shit and wearing those kind of clothes. Oh my god, what's going on? Is this Tall Harry, or what?
For what felt like hours. It was the middle of the night, and the desert was pitch black. The songbirds and the screeching had finally stopped. The only sound was a gentle rustling of wind through the brush.
Yeah, oh no.
Charles gathered his nerves and left the shack. He checked his canteen. It was half empty. In the sand, he saw 3 sets of footprints, a child and 2 adults. Someone was there. Charles had seen enough. He scrambled to his Jeep, fired up the engine, and tore down the dirt road heading back to base.
Dang.
No more than a few minutes passed when Charles got another shock. standing in the brush next to...
There we go. That's the mama alien right there. Yep. Yeah, she's not gonna let him have a chance. Yeah, that's our alien baddies right there. Damn, man, yo.
The road was an extremely tall woman, well over 6 feet tall.
6
And like
feet,
the child and the other entity, she had skin as white as chalk. Her hair was shimmering silver. She seemed to glow in the dark. Charles felt panic welling up when a feeling of calm suddenly washed over him. As he passed the tall woman, he could hear her in his mind. Telepathically, she thanked him for helping her daughter.
If it wasn't for the daughter, I guess he would have got beamed by, because the way she was standing there, you know, kind of reminded me of Homelander. Yeah, like, you F with me, get lasered, son. So yeah, no, thank God. I mean, he actually, yeah, like, he did some good, and then they thanked him, right?
Again, Charles felt his fear rising, but once again, there was calm. The woman, if that's what she was radiating peaceful energy and gratitude. Charles felt like he couldn't be afraid even if he tried. Charles hit the gas but checked his mirrors. After a few minutes, the woman disappeared, and with her went the feeling of peace and calm. Charles stopped his Jeep, stumbled out, and threw up. He was shaking and out of breath. Once he had his wind back, he vomited again.
So
he didn't realize it then, but Charles had won the trust of one of the tall whites. Ooh. At least that's what the US government called them. The tall whites were not from Earth.
Yeah, oh crap. So
the truth was, Charles wasn't sent to the ranges at Indian Springs by his commanding officers, nor was he recommended for the job by his friend Dwight. Charles was specially chosen by a committee of high-ranking generals, members of the government, and leaders of the tall whites.
A weatherman apparently established peace with an alien race. Well, yeah, crazy, right? Crazy.
At his time at Nellis, Charles was never told the full truth about his work. He was never given any classified briefings or documentation. He was never read into any black ops or secret government programs. Charles was just a weather observer.
Yeah, I mean, this wasn't supposed to happen, right? So...
But the truth was, he was the one being observed.
Oh, or maybe it was supposed to happen. Oh shit, so he was the test subject. But the question is, by them alien twats or by like the US government? Did the US government knew at the time?
Late one night in 1896, Colonel H.G. Shaw was traveling in horse and buggy near Lodi, California. Suddenly, the horse became frightened and stopped. In the middle of the road were 3 7-foot-tall beings. The colonel described their skin as so white it looked like polished ivory.
Looking up, we beheld 3 strange beings.
Oh, dang.
They resembled humans in many respects, but still, they were not like anything I had ever seen. They were nearly or quite 7 feet high and very slender. They were possessed of a strange and indescribable beauty.
Colonel Shaw said they...
So he fell for the beauty. Man, that's why I be saying, man. Yeah, them alien baddies, bro, I guess you're definitely... It's gonna be very, very hard to not fall for their beauty. But that is if they got beauty, right? Maybe they just have the beauty but no booty. You know, pause. But maybe they got the booty but no beauty. So I know it's an issue, right? It's an issue. But let's focus. Let's stick to the topic at hand.
They didn't speak, but they made warbling sounds like birds. You can actually find this whole story in Speak, but they made
an indescribable beauty.
Colonel Shaw said they didn't speak, but they made warbling sounds like birds. You can actually find this whole story online. It made the front page.
Oh shit, so when Charles was hearing something, he thought it was a bird, but it was not a bird, it was them! Oh shit, oh shit!
Of the Stockton Evening Mail on November 25th, 1896. This is the first modern report of the tall white aliens, but their story on Earth goes back millennia. Paul Hellyer, the Canadian Defense Minister...
Yep, the guy that we started this video off with, Paul Hellyer, or Haler, don't want to butcher his name, but shout out to Paul, man. He's no longer with us, but definitely was one of the most credible government employees. Sounds different when it comes to Paul. I don't want to say an employee, but yeah, one of the defense minister. Yeah, that's who he was. So one of the most credible defense minister to have ever released that kind of information. And yeah, it was quite insane, man.
Was one of the first high-ranking government officials to acknowledge the alien presence. He became interested after a squadron of UFOs was mistaken to be Soviet aircraft.
The investigation was launched into this whole subject, and the document was prepared, which concluded that at least 4 species had been visiting Earth for thousands of years.
Oh, dang. Even he said 4.
You're probably familiar with a few of these species.
Because even now they are saying 4 different species during a Congress meeting, that the Nordics, the Greys, the Mantis, the Reptilians, the Nordics, right? But the tall whites are different, so it gotta be 5, no?
There are a few variations of the Greys, which are described as being under 4 feet tall, with large heads and large black eyes. There's a species called the Nordics, which are very human-like. There are the tall whites and a few others.
Oh, so the tall whites are kind of like similar. Yeah, I mean, they're similar to them, but some say that they're different, right? So there are 2 different species, but I guess he's putting them in one species. Kind of makes sense. But tall whites and Nordics, different, because Nordics are kind of like us. They're also white, but they're not like the tall whites. They're not that white.
Other species that I learned about not too long ago was called the tall whites.
Ooh.
For years, it was rumored that at least one, or perhaps more than one, race of aliens made a deal with the United States government in early 1954. The defense minister agrees.
There are live ETs on Earth at this present time, and at least 2 of them probably working with the United States government.
Yeah,
Nobody knows the specifics of the arrangement.
Yeah, the shadow government knows.
Well, yeah, they do, but the public doesn't. The best guess is that the U.S. would allow the aliens to build facilities on Earth without disruption. The U.S. would also allow aliens to abduct American citizens as long as they provided the government with
the Greada Treaty. The Greada Treaty, and it is, if to be believed, it was... Sorry about that. If to be believed, it has been said that the Greys came in, the tall whites came in, the Nordics came in with their offers, right? They were like, yeah, buy from us, gang, buy from us, buy from us. And apparently, it was said that the Nordics or the tall whites came in with the idea of, hey, give us your nukes and we're gonna give you all the good, the good energies. We're gonna give you all the good technology and all that. Your planets will prosper, no more hunger. People will live 300 years, this, that, the other. Yeah, medical will be saved, planet will be saved and all that, but just gotta give us your nukes, okay, because you're gonna blow yourselves up and we don't want that. So we didn't chose that. We went in the route of the Greys, who were like, okay, we're gonna give you more weapons, and make America the best nation on the planet. Okay, so that's what that was one of the proposal of the Greys. And guess what? America took the proposal of the Greys, as expected. So we took the weapons from the Greys, and we kept the nukes. But another argument was that, okay, what if the tall whites and the Nordics were lying, right? Yeah, some are saying that, bro, like, take the nukes away. Yeah, but what if they actually use the nukes on us? You cannot trust it, man. You really cannot trust it. What if they were speaking facts that they are gonna take the nukes away and then in return give us like the good technology, the planet will be in good shape, yeah, people gonna live 300 years, no more poverty, no more this, no more that. But what if it was all a lie? What if they took the nuke and were like, okay, you know what? Let's either fire them off right now or threaten the population for good, so we can get this down. Or perhaps they're gonna have their motive, right? So let's actually fulfill that motive.
With the list of abductees. And American citizens, as long as they provided the government with the list of abductees. In exchange, the United States would have access to alien technology. The US wanted anti-gravity and propulsion technology. The aliens would not give them this. They felt that humans were too violent and dangerous to be let out of our cage, which is this planet. However,
it's like
the US
cage, huh?
did receive help with other technology, the first of which was titanium. Now, titanium was discovered in 1791, but it wasn't until the 1950s that titanium began to be used for military aviation, specifically in high-performance jets, starting with the F-100 Super Sabres and Lockheed A-12s. The Super Sabre, by the way, is the first jet to break the sound barrier.
It has also been said that the B-2 stealth bomber, the Bunker Buster, its skin, the reason it's stealth is because it's been reverse engineered by like one of the alien tech, right? That's one of the conspiracy theory too. Let's see if he covers that too or not. I hope he
If
does.
you think this craft looks like a stealth bomber, that's not by accident. The US Air Force used a lot of alien technology to build stealth aircraft. Transistors are said to be alien tech.
Yeah.
Transistors allowed the size of electronic devices to be made much smaller and lighter. Laser technology arrived in 1958. That same year, we got fiber optics. And also in 1958, we got the big one, the microchip.
Yeah.
The following year, the first integrated circuit was developed.
It's crazy, right? Like out of nowhere, we started having like these small ass processors and chips. So yeah, and the LED lights as well. Yeah, the LED light in the back here, you know, lights like that. It has also been said that the Alabals actually gave us that too. I mean, crazy if true. I can't believe these chips, not the chips that you eat, guys. Come on, man. Like these chips, the nano chips, the processors and all that. I can't believe that these were actually given to us by them Alamos, the aliens and all that. But the LED lights, really, we couldn't make them up on our own. Come on, man.
Developed. Now, skeptics dismiss these claims as coincidence, and I understand that. But consider this. In 1947, ENIAC was built. This was the first programmable electronic digital computer. It weighed 30 tons. It contained 18,000 vacuum tubes, 70,000 resistors, 10,000 capacitors, and 5 million.
Yeah, the point is from this to now this. Now, of course, right? Like us humans, we're innovative, so we love to improve upon things in life. So that is true. But right, like from this to the small ass like processors that quick, nah, man, something gotta give.
Hand solder joints. It took up an entire room. ENIAC was decommissioned in 1958 because all of that 30 tons of technology could now be placed on a single chip. That's quite a leap in tech in under 10 years.
Under 10
Satellites,
years,
wireless tech, unmanned aerial vehicles, even night vision. All this technology has allegedly been gifted to or reverse engineered by the United States military. Well, certain parts of the military. When
Under 10
Charles
years.
Hall gained the trust of the Tall Whites, they showed him some of this technology. They even let him see one of their scout ships. Actually, you've seen them too.
What? Say psych.
Did they tell you, Charles, where they were from? What star system they might have come up from?
One night I was there with the teacher, and I asked her where she came from, and she smiled and asked me, do I know the names of the stars that the Tall Whites use? And I said, no, I didn't. And she said, so why do you want to know where we come from?
Ooh.
However, one night they were standing around me,
That's
and
why
I
we want to know.
mentioned the star Arcturus, and they all got real nervous.
Urus. Okay, I'm gonna Google and find out like where that is.
Charles
or
formed a
how
friendship
far.
with the tall white woman whose child he helped find. She went by the name The Teacher. Charles later met Range 4 Harry, who is definitely not a
Okay, so it says Urus star is not a recognized astronomical term. However, if you're interested in stars and the Lambert, okay, let me find how far away from Earth. Let's find out. 50 to 200 light years away. Oh shit! So I mean, 50 to 200 light. That, bro, either say 50 or 51. Okay, that I can understand, but 50 to 200, that's like, dog, like, you know, what are we talking about? That's like, that's a massive difference. That's a massive difference. We're not talking like 50 to 200 meters difference. We're talking light years. Okay, so Google, yeah, I guess, Google is having one of those days.
Radioactive horse. Charles later met Range 4 Harry, who is definitely not a radioactive horse. Charles later met Range 4 Harry, who is definitely not a radioactive horse. Range 4 Harry is a high-ranking tall white alien. The tall whites travel the stars in large, black, triangular titanium ships. Smaller scout crafts were used to travel within the solar system and around the Earth. These are roughly the size of a bus and can only land on Earth during the full moon. You've seen these scout crafts before. You just know them as the Tic Tac. Charles learned that the scout crafts aren't alien at all.
Dang. So that too? Yeah, because I'm not. If you have been following the news, Ross Coulthart actually came out and he got a lot of shit, but a lot of people understand as well, and a lot of people are like, okay, give us. A lot of people also did not give him shit, but were like, okay, give us the proof. Which I think that's understandable. That's justified to. It's justified to ask for proof, right? But apparently, Ross Coulthart did claim, according to his sources, which he said himself that he cannot reveal the sources. Okay, yeah, I understand he don't want to reveal the names, but give us something. Give us something. But Ross Coulthart said that this Tic Tac ship UFO, the one that was seen back in 2004, the one that Commander David Fravor chased, you know, the pilot that was on Joe Rogan, the pilot that was on TV, the pilot that just talked about chasing a UFO, Tic Tac ship UFO, yeah, him, back in 2004. Apparently that was not a real UFO. It was made by Lockheed. Oh shit! The question is, on this planet, or it was made by reverse engineering the alien tech on this planet.
As the Tic Tac. Charles learned that the scout crafts aren't alien at all. Government contractors like Boeing and Lockheed are the ones building them.
Dang. Okay, so...
Look at this. You know what this is?
Dr. Stephen Greer.
There's a whole fleet of them. Look on the ASA.
Gimbal.
My gosh. They're all going against the wind. The wind's 120 knots from the west. Thing, dude.
This is an alternative energy and propulsion device. These are things that have existed all the way back to the 60s. But the one that they call the Tic Tac here off the coast of San Diego,
this one, yeah,
the white one, looked very much like this. These have been made by the Lockheed Skunk Works.
Skunk Works is Lockheed Martin's advanced development program. It works on highly...
Stephen Greer is one of those guys, whether you believe him or you don't believe him. I understand, like, there have been instances where he said that we're gonna know more about the truths on that day, and that didn't happen. And that's the thing, though, right? Like, dates can be changed, can be wronged information and all that. So, yeah, when you give the ETA... and if you're then proven wrong, then you get that stain on your credibility. Yeah, right? I'm not saying people are in the wrong. I'm not saying David or Dr. Stephen Greer is wrong. He has put out a lot of really fascinating and interesting stuff, and he's one of those guys, whether I don't know his motives, I don't know what's truly in his heart, I don't know whether he's legit or not, but let's be objective about it. The documentaries that he has made and the whistleblowers that he has put forward, yeah, hundreds of whistleblowers, thousands of whistleblowers during all of his career, right, and all of his documentaries that he produced, and they have been high-ranking military officials, high-ranking government officials. So, I mean, you cannot take that part away from him. Yeah, there are other stuff that is quite iffy, but he has definitely put the topic on the map, essentially, right?
Skunk Works is Lockheed Martin's advanced development program. It works on highly classified research as well as exotic aircraft platforms. Because of their deal with the US government, most military personnel believe the tall whites use Earth as a truck stop in the middle of the solar system.
Man.
Earth is rich in raw materials and has these smart little apes who can make somewhat decent vehicles. Through conversations during his 2-year post at Nellis, Charles learned the tall whites oversaw the development of a lot of human tech, but they've never taught us how to reach light speed or how to create the anti-gravity elements of their ships.
Yeah, they won't.
Now, if you saw last week's episode on free energy and anti-gravity, you remember that anti-gravitic technology was very popular in the early 1950s. The entire aerospace industry was talking about it. Then suddenly, nobody was talking about it. The suspicion is the US military had help in getting this tech to work, so they classified everything. Sometimes, the tall whites would take high-ranking military members on tours of the solar system. American generals wanted to expand humanity's operations to other planets, but the tall whites don't think we're ready yet. But Charles does think there's significant trade happening between...
Come on, man. When are we gonna be ready, bro? Damn. At this point, bring it on, bro. Bring it on. Sick and tired of paying taxes out here. Ask yourself this, right? Are we just here to pay taxes, go to work, pay taxes, sleep, eat, shit, go to work, pay taxes? There's gotta be more to life, man. Damn, come on. Come on, there's gotta be more to life. Like the video if you agree.
In the US and the tall whites. And when they feel we're ready, the tall whites will finally allow us to inhabit other worlds.
And when would that be?
So, what did they want with someone like Charles? If these beings already had a working relationship with the US government, why was Charles suddenly part of the equation? Well, the answer concerns the other part of the arrangement with the tall whites. Charles learned he was part of an experiment. He was being studied by the tall whites, especially by the teacher. He was fascinating to their species, and the teacher enjoyed spending time with Charles.
Yeah, I think of all the education that I missed, but then my homework was never quite like this.
The teacher taught Charles about her people, and he taught her about humans. Charles spent so much time with her that he became known as the teacher's pet.
Get it bad, get it bad, get it bad. I'm half a teacher.
The tall white.
Get it bad, so bad. I'm half a...
Take the water out at this point, man. No, I'm joking. I'm not that cruel, man. No, keep the water in, man. Change the water. Change the water.
Teacher. Yeah, I'm just trying to liven things up. Go ahead.
The tall whites can speak English, but their natural voices are far higher and lower in range than humans. Their natural speech has been compared to songbirds. While tall whites may appear somewhat...
They can speak English? So why don't you come out and tell us what the... the jelly beans is happening around here, man? Damn! Tell us in English, mother trucker.
Somewhat human, their ability to songbirds. While tall whites may appear somewhat human, their abilities are quite different from ours. They possess the power to project powerful emotions into the human consciousness. They can also sense the emotional state of the humans they encounter. Even though the tall whites are naturally peaceful, they are always armed. They carry a pen-like object that can stun, damage, or even kill.
Ew, it sounds like a sonic screwdriver.
Kinda, yeah.
But kinda like Harry Potter with the wands, right?
Charles was never in danger. He developed a deeply emotional relationship with the tall whites. Not much is known about tall white biology. We know they age slowly. Their first stage of growth lasts until age 400. At this point, they stand between 6 and 7 feet tall. Then they go through a second growth stage. They can grow up to 8 or 9 feet tall, and their eyes turn from blue to pink. The average lifespan of a tall white is about 800 years.
So if you see a pink-eyed tall white, then that means it's an old one, right? But if it's blue-eyed, I guess blue-eyed, then it could be like 300 years, maybe less, maybe a little bit more, right? Give or take, kind of. Okay.
Charles was never told where their home planet was. He felt they intentionally kept this a secret. However, when Charles mentioned the star Arcturus, they became uncomfortable. Arcturus is in the constellation of Boötis.
Booties.
Boötis.
Booties.
It says booties on the teleprompter.
It's pronounced Boötis.
Whatever. The Black Knight satellite is supposed to be from...
I guess that's what it was. So it was not the Urus. The reason I typed Urus earlier was because I saw the YouTube caption bot say that. So I assumed that. I guess this is what it meant. Arcturus. Yeah, Arcturus is the brightest star in the Booties constellation and the fourth brightest in the night sky. So it's about 36.7 light years away. What about the Zeta Reticuli? I believe it was somewhere close to, right? Zeta Reticuli star system. So that is 39 light years away. That's the one Bob Lazar talked about reading when he was working at S4 Area 51, allegedly, right?
Booties.
Boötis. But
Booties.
You're right, that star system has come up before. Now, despite being a more advanced species, Tall whites secretly fear humans' intuitive capabilities and ESP. They believe it's just a matter of time before the human race evolves the ability to tap into these powers. They believe we'll develop abilities like telepathy and telekinesis, which is moving objects with thought. They believe every human has the ability to project their consciousness to any place on Earth or beyond.
Remote viewing.
Remote viewing, yeah, I was gonna say remote viewing as well.
Remote viewing researchers have said that every human has this ability, but only a few talented people have been able to tap into it.
I hear this a lot, and man, okay, I'm gonna try to research and find out if you can do it or not. Essentially, I know this sounds kind of cool, guys. One in the comments if you believe in remote viewing. Two, if you don't believe it at all. If you don't know, the short version is I can sit here, close my eyes, and I would be able to tell you exactly what's going on a street from now, a street across country, in a different country, even different planet. If I have that ability, what's the word? If I have used that ability often and I know what I'm doing, right? So it's basically that's a short version. I can close my eyes and I can see what's happening in a street from here. Do you believe that? Do you not? Yeah, put it in the comments. 1 if yes, 2 if not.
Ingo Swann, Pat Price, and Joe McMoneagle were talented remote viewers who worked for military intelligence.
And Pat Price was killed because of it, don't forget.
That's the theory.
Remote viewing links below.
Yeah, we have a lot of episodes on that subject. Well, in total, Charles's experience with the tall whites lasted just 2 years, from 1965 to 1967. In 67, he was deployed to Vietnam and he never saw the tall whites again. He waited almost 40 years to tell his story, but when he finally did, other witnesses came forward who had seen the tall whites.
That's him? That's Charles? The guy that actually spoke with the teacher, the tall white?
It was enough first-hand accounts that researchers started looking for evidence. The first step was to try to find the secret facilities built by the United States government. And somebody found them.
Oh no. Or I guess, oh yes.
When Charles Hall wanted to release his book Millennial Hospitality in 2002, no publisher would take it on. And that was a mistake. He self-published and the book was a hit. 2 more books followed, and Charles made the typical rounds. UFO conventions, book signings, he did a few TV interviews. He even appeared on Coast to Coast with George Norrie in 2005.
When you work with aliens, I think you're legally required to go on Coast to Coast.
Well, if you want to sell books, that's the show to do. Now, all this attention brought out skeptics who wanted to prove Charles wrong, and it brought out the believers, determined to prove him right. And the more people that looked into Charles's story, the more of the story was confirmed to be true. Charles was at Nellis Air Force Base when he said he was. He was a weather observer. He was deployed to Vietnam in 67. All those facts are easily checked.
I want to hear about aliens.
I'm getting to them.
Get there faster.
Get there.
Some of the best research I found was done by David Hilton. David's website is long gone, but it used to say he was a historian, anthropologist, and researcher. Now, on David's YouTube channel, he has a few videos that seem to confirm that Charles Hall was telling the truth.
Ooh.
I had an interest in the story of Charles Hall and the tall whites for a number of years. After reading his book Millennial Hospitality, I was trying to locate the positioning of the weather stations on the bombing and gunnery ranges that he talks about in his book, so that I could better understand the orientation of the various locations.
When researching the story, David came across this photo. At the bottom is Creech Air Force Base in Indian Springs. Remember, even though Charles was stationed at Nellis, his work was done out here at the ranges, in and north of Indian Springs. The photo shows Range 1 in the southeast, Range 3 just north of the base, and Range 4 in the valley.
Oh, that's Harry's hood.
Right, that's where Range 4 Harry got his nickname. But what caught David's attention were the areas marked Scoutcraft Hangar, Scoutcraft Parking, and Resting and Play Area. Charles talks about these locations in his books, so David opened Google Earth to see what was out there. Now, before we zoom in, remember how Charles described the tall white scout crafts. They were about the size of a bus, white, and elliptical. In David's video, he shows this image.
Oh, the Tic Tac?
That looks like the Tic Tac UFO we've all seen by now.
No!
But here's the thing. David released his video 11 years ago, long before the Tic Tac was made public. Dr. Stephen Greer and others claim the Tic Tac is a UFO made by Skunk Works at Lockheed Martin. Now, Charles Hall doesn't specifically name Lockheed, but he does say that the scout craft are made by military contractors.
Oh, shit.
Now, let's see what David finds on Google Earth.
I'm assuming that the Tic Tac, at least the first version that, or the first one that came on the planet, right, was probably, I guess there are the real alien ones as well, and there are reverse engineered one as well. It's just gonna be, yeah, you wouldn't know the difference unless you know or you have worked on, right? Nah, ain't no way.
There is some kind of platform, and near the platform, 3 elliptical white objects, each about the size of a bus.
Tic Tacs!
They certainly look like it. And even if they're not alien scout craft.
They totally are.
Fine, but even if they're not, look at the location. There are no roads or even walking paths leading to this place. And this is exactly where Charles said the craft would be.
What about
He also said there was a recreation area here. That platform could be what he's talking about.
Tall white shooting oops?
Could be. So David and people in his audience started scouring Google Earth around the old bombing ranges.
Oh, did they find more alien playgrounds?
Yep, lots more.
Uh-oh.
One of the first sites listed on the video is just off
US military trying their hardest for it to not come out. Google be like, here you go, guys. Sorry. You know, sorry for messing it up. Dang it.
off the end of the runway at Creech Air Force Base. This seems to agree with Charles Hall's story of the aliens coming onto the base from the northwest corner at the end of the runway.
Holy shit.
In total, David was able to find 18 separate sites. Other people found a few more. I included some coordinates in the description if you want to check them out for yourself. Now, some of the locations David shows have been scrubbed by Google Earth.
Predictable.
But his video is from 2013, so we can see the locations before they were erased. Most of them are man-made structures, but with no apparent access.
Yeah, because you access them from underground.
That is the theory. But building a tunnel system of this size underneath the bombing range would be an enormous undertaking and extremely expensive.
Yeah.
If such a project...
I mean, not that expensive when you got the entire nation paying you taxes. You know, not that expensive after using people's money.
...did indeed occur, you'd expect there to be evidence.
There's evidence, isn't there?
Yep.
Yahtzee!
Not only is there evidence of a major construction project, there's evidence of a black budget cover-up.
Yahtzee!
Yes! Yes! Okay, I want that. I want that. I want to know that. Oh, we're getting to the
build
climax.
An underground base with miles and miles of tunnels, it's going to be a huge undertaking and wildly expensive. But there's evidence that this project did happen. In January 1951, an article was published in the Las Vegas Review-Journal, and the headline is, Indian Springs Project Key to Defense Plans. The project is said to cost $300 million, and that's in 1951. In today's money, that would be $3.6 billion. For comparison...
Can a brother get 2 pennies, man? Like...
That's about what it cost to build the Freedom Tower in New York. The article said most of the money was to build housing and offices. Look at the base. Do you see billions of dollars worth of construction anywhere? I don't. So where'd the money go? Again, the credit goes to David Hilton for tracking down this information. According to the article, the contract was awarded to the McKee Construction Company in El Paso, Texas. Government contracts are public information. So let's look at the records the McKee Construction Company has for this job. Job number 1267. Description, alternate test site facilities. Location, Las Vegas, Nevada. Contract started on December 23, 1950 and ended May 23, 1951. Total contract cost, $680,000.
Math isn't my strong suit, but
But about 299 of that $300 million is missing.
Black budget!
It looks that way, but we don't know for sure. Even the article from 1951 says, quote, the actual details of the program are cloaked in a security blackout. When Las Vegas residents learned about the huge construction project, locals contacted the base looking for work. They were told the military would be using no outside labor for this project. But that $300 million went somewhere. If we don't see that money spent above ground, there's only one other place it could be.
Underground?
Yep.
Holy sh...
Yeah, man, wasting taxpayer dollars like that, bro, dang. And we don't even know where it's going. I guess we can only assume based off of these conspiracies, but like, yeah, bro.
Charles Hall and the Tall Whites is considered one of the most credible stories about aliens living with and working with humans here on Earth.
But is it real? He better say that, I guess, right?
But is it true? Well, like many of these stories, we have no physical evidence. We only have the word of the author, in this case, Charles. Do you believe him?
I want to believe.
Well, most
I
of today's story comes from Charles's books and the documentary Walking with the Tall Whites, both linked below. When Charles tells the story, he sounds sincere. But I've heard many stories.
Oh, that's Charles. Oh, crap. So, for all his, like, adulthood, from adulthood to now, he kept the same story? Dang. So it's like, similar to Bob Lazar, right? Bob Lazar also kept his story similar. So, at least there is consistency there. And, yeah, that's a huge factor for it to be truthful. Not saying it is, but, you know, that's one of the factors.
From people who sound sincere and turned out to be frauds, and I've outed a few of them on this channel. Now, I don't have evidence that Charles Hall is a fraud, but parts of his story do bother me. First, he released his books, and there are 6 of them now, as science fiction. Only later did he say these things really happened. Now, supporters of the story will mention 3 other witnesses who were with Charles at Nellis Air Force Base. They say his story is true. But those witnesses didn't give their names. They're only known as witnesses A, B, and C. And to complicate matters, on January 13th, 2014, Forbes published an article with a strange headline. Iran says tall white space aliens control America.
Oh, damn.
The article says the United States is ruled by a species of tall white aliens who made a deal with President Eisenhower in 1954. The article also says the tall whites helped bring the Nazis to power in the 1930s. Apparently, this information was discovered by Edward Snowden.
Wait. So this is real?
No.
What?
Forbes was covering a story
Snowden?
first reported by the Fars News.
Edward Snowden is a computer specialist. Yeah, exactly. He was a former CIA. Not anymore, in other words, right? Yeah, after what he did, but...
Agency, operated by the Iranian government. Forbes said...
Snowden documents proving U.S. alien Hitler links stun Russia. Man, that's another can of worms, bro. That's another one of those conspiracy theories. You know, aliens, Hitler, there was linked with that too.
The article is most likely Russian disinformation designed by the FSB, Russian intelligence.
Perhaps. Oh, the American media sure loves to publish Russian disinformation, don't they?
They sure do. Now, I don't believe anything that comes from the Iranian or Russian media.
Oh, but you trust American media?
No.
Nope.
Yeah, the boy.
But what if they accidentally got something right? That the United States is being controlled by what the article calls a secret regime. I don't know if Charles Hall is telling the truth. I don't know if the tall whites exist. It's up to you to decide.
Yeah.
But the secret regime, the shadow government, I do believe that exists, and I'm far from the only one.
And the cabal comprises members of the Three Sisters, the Council on Foreign Relations, the Bilderbergers, and the Trilateral Commission, the International Banking Cartel, the Oil Cartel, members of various intelligence organizations, and select members of the military unit, who together have become a shadow government of not only the United States, but of much of the Western world.
Dang. Yeah, so Canada's part of it as well. What an amazing video. Shout out to the Y-Files. Check this one out. So Sergeant Clifford Stone on aliens that completely look human and walk among us. It's a pretty short one. Check this.
1989, we had cataloged 57 different species. You have individuals that look very much like you and myself that could walk among us and you wouldn't even notice the difference.
So you have the tall whites, the Nordics, the Valiant Tor, that's another one, right? Perhaps you gotta make a video on it someday. The Anunnakis! I made a video on it a while back. Maybe I need to make a part 2 of it soon. The Palladians! The Era! The Calarian! The Neptunian! And of course the Greys, and there are some other species that are not on the list, but he said 57, something like that.
Except for some of the things that they might be able to go ahead, even in a dark room, and touch an object and go ahead and identify what color that object might be. They would have a heightened sense of smell, sight. The unique thing that I'd like to point out for the most part is that the entities that we did catalog were in fact humanoid. Now this created a situation where the scientific community was trying to figure out why that would be the case. Because you would expect that if life evolved on other planets, that they would take on some type of other being, so to speak, not necessarily look humanoid or be bipedal such as we are.
Exactly, but apparently they do look humanoid. At least some of them, or I guess most of them. Different features, absolutely, but they look quite like us. This was that Greada Treaty video. If you have not seen it, check it out. This is gonna open up your third eye. It's a crazy one indeed. Check it out and I'll see you there.